Sacrifice means giving up something. It means taking something away from yourself in the order to help others.
Sacrifice of sage Dadhichi. Indra and the other Devas approached the sage Dadhichi during Devasur Sangram for his aid in defeating Asura, which requires sage bones. Dadhichi is then said to have given up his life by the art of yoga, after which the Devas fashioned the Vajrayudha from his spine. This weapon was then used to defeat the Asura, allowing Indra to reclaim his place as the king of Devloka. Can we consider donations made by Tata and Gate even at cost of losing their richest position to help people?
Can a common man also does great sacrifice like Sage Dadhichi? Please watch a beautiful and heart-touching story which make your eyes wet as well. Once upon a time in Bharat during the end of Treta Yuga, there was a little mongoose. One half of his body was beautiful golden color but the other half was plain brown.
This little mongoose went wandering about in many different parts of the country Bharat like Mathura, Hastinapur, Indraprasth, and wherever he went he rolled on the ground and then looked at his body to see if the brown half had become golden like other half. But no, it never had. He was still half golden and half brown. He was very sad. One day he reached Kurukshetra.
The great battle of Kurukshetra was over. After winning the Kurukshetra war, the 5 Pandavas brothers, filled with joy and relief, decided to perform a grand Ratsuya Yagna, a royal sacrifice, to celebrate their victory over the Kauravas. The Ratsuya Yagna was a significant Vedic ritual in ancient India, primarily associated with the coronation of a king and the establishment of their sovereignty. It was a complex ceremony involving various rituals, sacrifices, and symbolic acts, all aimed at affirming the king's divine right to rule and their position as a Chakravarti or universal monarch.
After the completion of Ratsuya Yagna, they decided to show their happiness by giving food and gifts to poor people. Then when all the people had eaten enough, the Pandavas brothers sent them money and clothes and jewels. So, the poor people are no longer poorer. And they all felt very happy. The little mongoose stood in one corner, beside a very old man. Together, they watched all that was happening.
"This is wonderful," the old man said to the little mongoose. "How come and unselfish the Pandav's brother is. What is a great sacrifice they had made to help these poor people. Such a great sacrifice the world has never seen before."
"Is that true?" replied to the little mongoose. "Is it a great sacrifice? Have they given away their own food? Have they nothing left for them if this is true? Then when I roll on the ground here, the brown half of my body will become golden like the other half." The little mongoose that rolled and rolled on the ground. "Have I become golden? Have I become golden all over?" he cried.
The old man looked at the little mongoose. "No," he said, "no, you have not. You are just as before, half golden and half brown."
Little mongoose was very disappointed. "Then what do you say is not true?" he said to the old man. "This is not a great sacrifice. It is not a sacrifice at all."
The old man was shocked. "How can you say this is not a sacrifice?" he asked. "You have seen for yourself how much money has been spent. Money and food, clothes and jewels, all were just poured out for those poor people. No one has ever given away so much. It was indeed a great sacrifice."
The little mongoose looked at the old man. "Sacrifice means giving up something," he said. "It means taking something away from yourself in the order to help others." The little mongoose sat on the ground in front of the old man. "I once saw a very great sacrifice," he continued. "It was when I rolled on the ground at that place that one half of my body became golden. That is why I am searching for another great sacrifice. When I find one, I shall roll on the ground there, and then the other half of my body will become golden and I shall be golden all over."
"Please tell me about that sacrifice," the old man replied. "I would like to know how you became the brown and half golden."
"Come sit down beside me," answered the little mongoose. "I shall be happy to tell you that story." The old man sat down and the little mongoose told him the following story. "I was living," said the mongoose, "in a small village far away from here, and in that village, there lived a Brahman whose name was Haridas. Haridas lived with his wife, his son and his son's wife. They were very poor, so poor that often they didn't have enough to eat. Haridas had some holy book, and he read a story in those books about great men and women who lived long, long ago. Then he visited the village people in their houses and told them those stories so that they would learn how to be kind and helpful to each other. In return, the village people gave him a small gift. Sometimes they gave him some rice or flour and sometimes some vegetables and fruits. Whatever the village people gave him, he took home to his family and carefully divided into 4 parts so that he and his wife, his son and his son's wife each had an equal share. In this way, Haridas and his family were able to live. There came a time, however, when the village people themselves did not have enough food. There was no rain and the crops in the fields dried up and withered away. For 3 years there was no rain, so all the wells dried up too, and day after day the people had nothing to eat. Also, they had nothing to give Haridas, so Haridas and his family were starving to they grew thin and weak, and as of the days passed, they grew weaker and weaker, and it seemed that they would die. One day some travelers passed through the village, and when they found that the people there had no food, they gave them a big bag of flour. The village people were very happy, but they didn't forget Haridas, their teacher and friend. They sent him a little of flour.
"Look, wife," cried Haridas, "here is some flour. At last we can have something to eat." His wife looked at the flour. "There is not much, is there?" she said. "It's not enough for 4 people. I will make chapati for you 3. "No," said Haridas, "we are all starving, and now that we have some flour we must all eat, so make 4 small chapati, all exactly the same size."
"Very well," his wife replied. Smiling, I said, "Do as you say." She and her son's wife then took the flour and made 4 chapatis, all exactly the same size. "The chapati are ready," cried Haridas's wife excitedly. "Let's eat them quickly, for we are all so hungry." She then gave 1 chapati each to her husband, her son and her son's wife, and kept 1 for herself. Just as they were about to eat their chapatis, however, there came a knock at the door.
"Who can it be?" said Haridas as he put down his chapati and went to the door. Haridas opened the door, and there stood a man with torn clothes. Haridas didn't not know this man, for he did not belong to the village, and Haridas had not seen him before. "What can I do for you, sir?" asked Haridas.
"I'm on my way to Varanasi, sir," the stranger replied. "I asked some children down the lane to show me the house of a good man, and they brought me to you. I am tired and hungry, sir. May I rest with you? Horn, I'm really very hungry."
Haridas looked carefully at the man. Says, "Yes, you look tired and weaker. You need food. Come inside. You are our guests. To serve a guest is to serve God. You are welcome." Haridas replied. He took the guest into the room and gave him a place to sit. "We ourselves haven't much to eat," said Haridas, "but today we happen to have some chapati. See here, it is a chapati for you." Haridas then picked up his own chapati and gave it to the guest. Haridas' wife, his son and his son's wife is still holding their chapati. They watched the guest, and he quickly ate up the chapati Haridas had given him.
"That was good," he said to Haridas, "but sir, 1 small chapati makes a hungry man feel hungrier, so I'm so hungry and my stomach is burning. I think I'm going to die." And the guest put his hand on his stomach and groaned with pain.
Haridas's wife looked at her husband. "Give him this," she said, and held out her chapati.
"No, dear wife," replied Haridas, "this is yours. It is for you. Must eat it."
"But we are householders, aren't we?" replied the wife gently. "And here we have with us a poor man who is very hungry. It is our duty as householders to see that he is fed. You have already given him your own chapati, so now it is my duty as your wife to give him my chapati. You have nothing more to give him, so I must give him what I have." Then Haridas's wife gave her chapati to the guest. The guest took the chapati eagerly and quickly ate it up. "Do you feel better now?" asked Haridas's wife.
"No, I don't feel better," cried the guest. "I feel bad, so I'm so hungry." And again he put his hands on his stomach and groaned with pain.
Haridas' son gave his chapati to the guest. "It is my duty to help my father do his duty to the guest," he said. "Eat this, my friend, you are our guest."
"Do you feel better now?" asked the son's wife.
"Not much," replied the guest. "I'm still very hungry."
"Oh, then you eat this," replied son's wife. She gave her chapati the guest. At last the guest felt satisfied.
"I'm all right now," he said, "and I must continue my journey." The guest stood up. "May God bless you all," he said.
Haridas opened the door, and the guest went on his way. That night Haridas, his wife, son and son's wife all died for the lack of food.
The little mongoose and the old man were sitting in the corner of the field in Kurukshetra.
As the story ended, the little mongoose fell silent. He seemed to be thinking something far away.
Go on, said the old man. That's not the end of your story. You haven't told me yet how you become half golden and half brown.
I replied the little mongoose, those 4 people made a great sacrifice, didn't they? To help a poor man they gave up their food and they gave up their lives. I was there hiding in the room, and I watched it all. I was very happy to see their sacrifice. In fact, I felt quite excited about it, or I never before seen a sacrifice like that. I was so excited that I joyfully rolled on the floor. A little of the flour, just a very little of flour from of those chapati, had fallen on the floor, and I rolled myself in that flour. There was so little that only 1/2 of my body picked up the flour, and at once that half of my body became golden. Since then, I have traveled far and wide looking for another sacrifice like that, but nowhere have I found one. Nowhere else has the other half of my body become golden.
Then we saw that a common man's sacrifice is also comparable with sage Dadhichi's sacrifice. It means sacrifice also consider people intention for particular sacrifice. It can be trivial or not a sacrifice if primary intention is not to helping others. Suppose in a marriage food is remaining after everyone eaten was present in marriage, then leftover is donated to needy people, is the real sacrifice? Or someone prepared fresh food to distribute to needy people and gave it to needy people. There were few examples of donations of very poor people donated for Sri Ram Mandir construction that was their 1 month or 1 year savings. Even that money may be required for their health expenditure when they are sick. Can it be considered greater sacrifice than what Tata, Gates etc. did? Amount of money is not a matter. Important thing is help others in adverse conditions.